Okay guys, so the key point for this video is to really deep dive into Amazon attribution and how we can use it if we so desire to track the sales and performance of any external off Amazon ads that we decide to run. So how you actually access the attribution, going into your campaign and ad settings, and then if you come here to this measurement and reporting and just click on Amazon attribution, you're going to come to this dashboard here. This is also where you can set up the manual attribution campaign setup so you can start to track your ads with external traffic. We're also going to have this file here which you can have access to, which is going to go through the manual SOP to set up these attribution tags. It's going to go through some bulk ops. We're going to show exactly what it looks like when the spit out happens. And then there's also going to be some other SOPs that come straight from the Amazon Attribution Learning Center. So the core point of attribution is really just to create a very specific URL. And that URL has some tracking in it such that when you place it in, say, a Google ad or a YouTube ad or a Facebook ad, that specific code will actually track to see who actually came to the actual ad and listing, who actually added to cart and converted, and then we can track those sales performance over time to see how well that ad is doing. Admittedly, Amazon attribution when it first came out about a year ago was really clunky and you couldn't really trust it. It's slowly but surely getting more effective and more accurate as time goes on. I would say it's most effective with Google ads and YouTube ads, just seems to be the most dialed with AdWords, although it's starting to get better for Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and a lot of these other external off Amazon traffic sources as well. For me, we really only use Amazon attribution if we've got an ongoing campaign, and when I mean ongoing, it's typically going to be more than a month, so that's typically when we've used it. If we're just doing a discrete launch for a couple weeks or it's kind of a short-term campaign, we usually just, again, want to be efficient with time. 70% is good enough oftentimes, so we typically don't do it. However, I should note that there's now a new program that when you actually get sales through an Amazon attribution link, your account can get credited up to about 10%, I think. So Amazon's actually rewarding you for driving these sales when they come through an attribution tag by actually giving you a credit on your account. So now that that 10% spiff is kind of come into play, you may want to run these with more regular campaigns, even those that you do at launch, if you've got enough time to set them up. But this video is all about how to actually set up these tags and how to leverage them. First of all, you'll kind of see when you first come in here that there's an actual dashboard very similar to your ad console for on Amazon pay-per-click. You can see all the number of clicks that came through ads, the number of actual detailed page views, number of add to carts, which is awesome to know, and then the number of purchases and sales. You can also, so this is like September 1st to September 30th. You could also look at like, hey, how am I doing this past week? In October, I could hit apply there. Okay, I've got this many purchases, this many sales. You could come in and you could even do, let's say August, a previous month, if you want to look at a previous month and see what that is. So it's very similar to that dashboard, which is kind of cool. And you can export this data if you ever want to track it on an ongoing basis. But how do you actually set these things up? So we're going to start with the manual process first, and then we'll kind of show quickly how to do the bulk ops process. But typically most people wanted to set up the campaigns manually. It's just the easiest way to do it. So you basically click on that click campaign. It's going to open up basically a walkthrough. You can choose whether to create manually or in bulk. We're going to go ahead and create manually. This step-by-step process can also be seen in this Amazon video here, which is like an animated video. But going back to this file here, this is basically all the steps that we're going to go through and that are included in those instructions. So we're going to go ahead and click manually. You can just type in your campaign name. So let's just say that this is, product A, Google Ads, November, whatever. You can come up with your own naming nomenclature, but typically we're going to want to have the actual product that we're targeting and the source that we're actually using to drive those off Amazon ads. Next, you just kind of select the product down here. It's got to be one that's active in the catalog and it's got to have a photo, otherwise it won't show up. The same thing as Amazon ads. And then we're going to actually just scroll down here, and then there's ad groups. So a bunch of ways to set this up depending on how detailed you want to track it. If you want to be perfect and understand how each keyword is doing, you'll typically want to have one keyword per ad group in, say, Google Ads if you want it to be perfect and know exactly what the sale came from. However, if you batch, say, 10 or 15 keywords into one ad group in Google and you dump those in, it's not going to give you the keyword level data. So you can kind of decide how granular you want to get. We're not super fancy with this. Again, we'll typically just put like 10 to 20 keywords into a Google campaign or into a Pinterest campaign, etc. And we'll have that all just tracked. So we're just going to track the overarching ad group. We're not necessarily going to track the individual keyword, although that is something you can set up, especially if you're using something like bulk files. So we're just going to name this one here. So typically I'll just name this one again, like the source of the traffic. And then I would just say, you know, and then I would typically have the goal. So maybe it's like a re-rank. And then I might have something like the keyword here. So keyword 1, keyword 2, keyword 3, etc. And maybe put in like the 10 keywords, just copy those in there. Or you could just keep it simple and just say Google Ads re-rank, however you want to name it. Then you want to select the publisher. Again, in our case, we typically do attribution with Google Ads as the main one we use it for, although you can do it with a bunch of different ones. So there's all kinds. We're going to just do Google AdWords here. And then the channel is typically going to be search. And then all we need to do is just use the Amazon click-through URL. So this is going to either be your product listing page is one option, or you can actually send it to a page on your store. If say you wanted more of a visual, detailed kind of landing page for your product. I would say 99% of the time though, we're actually just going to copy in the listing URL here. So let's just pretend, I'm just going to keep it simple and just think it's amazon.com, but again, we would copy in our listing URL. And then that's basically it. We could create that now, or if we've got multiple campaigns. So let's say that we're doing one in Google and then we want to do another one in Pinterest, or we have another set. Maybe we want to do like a broad match group here, not an exact match. We could create as many ad groups as we want here if we wanted to add them to the campaign. And we'll just keep it simple here. We'll go to create, and then boom, we have this bad boy set up. And then all we basically need to do is take this actual attribution tag here, and that's now going to be the URL that we use in that specific off Amazon ad. We can also download this. If we've got like a ton of ad groups here doing a bunch of different things, we can also download that file. And once we do download that file, it basically is going to look something like this. This is one I downloaded earlier today. So it's going to have the campaigns, ad group, the publisher search, the attribution tag if you want to copy that URL. It's always going to have that MAAS there, so that's how you can kind of tell. And then it's going to have the click-through URL, the actual ASIN that you're targeting. So that's basically what it looks like. We take that URL, we then plug it into whatever ad we're running. And again, you can come back in here and see all of your overarching performance. You could also come down through here and see all of the different campaigns that you have running, what the performance is. So you can track all of those at the campaign level over time as well. So that's how you set it up manually. That's how we do it the vast majority of the time. The second way that you can do it is to actually come in and do a bulk ops file. This is the SOP for doing the bulk ops. Again, it comes directly from Amazon. You can click that tab. You basically need to download a bulk template, which looks like this. And you are able to kind of import all of this data from a Google Ads campaign as an example. It's got some instructions on how to do that via Google Ads here if you want to do it that way. But that's pretty much it. It's the same thing. You're just kind of doing this in Excel form, and then you upload the Excel document, much like how you would do bulk files for Amazon pay-per-click. So that's Amazon attribution. Again, I think it makes more sense to do it now that you've got a 10% commission option with it. But typically we'll do this if we've got more long-standing campaigns. If we're just doing something for launch or for a week or two to re-rank a product, we typically don't go through the hassle of this, although it can make sense for you and your business. You can also use it for things like social posts. So say you're doing a link off in an Instagram story for your product, you can do it there to track how your actual social campaigns are going. And then there's actually a 14-day attribution window. So you can kind of see, hey, if somebody came through one of these attribution links, up to 14 days later is when they're going to actually track the sales. So it's getting better and better, and certainly if you want to be more sophisticated and dialed with measuring the performance of your external ads, Amazon attribution is where it's at.